Alright, it's week 5 of Wuthering Waves and we got quite a few announcements in the past few days, so it's time to start preparing for patch 1.1, coming out in a couple weeks on June 28th. So let's quickly talk about what we can expect to see. So we're going to have our premier limited character Jinshi. Now she is a hyper DPS to where she mainly wants to stay on field and she does a combo of basic attacks and she wants to activate her skill. By doing this, she's going to be able to enter a state to where she can automatically activate her outro and intro skill when she swaps to a different character. So she's mainly going to want to be paired up with supports with little field time. And in the future, she's hopefully looking for a support that has a very good intro skill. So let's go ahead and talk about the ascension materials that you're going to need for her. You're going to need these howler cores. For the flower, we're not going to be able to get access to that till we reach the new area. And for the boss material, we're going to need elegy tacit cores, which you can get by killing the morning affix. Then when it comes to her skills, you're going to need Waveform Residue to where you can get it in this forgery domain. And for the weekly boss material, you're going to have to fight the new weekly boss in the new area. Next we have Changli, to where she's looking like a main DPS to where she's going to require field time to do her strongest attacks, to where her playstyle is going to be a mixture of basic and heavy attacks and also her skill to build up charges for stronger attacks. She also has an ultra buff similar to Yangyang, to where it increases fusion damage instead of electro. Due to this, in the future she might end up favoring a quick swap playstyle, but like Jinshi, she might be looking for a future character to pair better with her. And currently she might have less options than Jinshi with our current character pool. Now for her ascension materials, she's going to want improved rings. The flower she's going to need you won't be able to find until you get to the new area. And the boss that you need to kill is Infernal Rider. When it comes to her skills, you're going to need the metallic drip, to where you can find it in this domain. And just like Jinshi, you can't get the weekly boss material until we get to the new area. They also came out with an article for a preview of what we're going to get in version 1.1. So I'm just going to quickly discuss what you can expect to see, but I'll leave a link to this article down in the description. So first off, we're going to be able to get more tuners by being able to synthesize our lower grade tuners. Next, we're getting increased union experience based off the echoes that we find in our databank. And we're going to have a better chance to get higher star echoes in our activity book. And lastly, we're going to be getting more events and rewards, with the main thing being the Illusive realm, to where we're going to have a different mode, allowing us to get even more Asterite from completing it. On top of that, we're going to have various events, to where we're going to have a login event, an exploration event, a combat event, a double material event, and a double echo event. And of course, we're getting a new zone. So now that we know what's coming, we want to make sure that we get our daily tasks completed so that we'll be ready for the new area. So for people that have been max refreshing, they should be union level 50 or higher by the time this week is over. If you refreshed a little bit or used up all of your cubes, you might be able to hit 50 as well. And for free-to-plays, they most likely will not hit that until next week. So due to that, that means soon all of us are going to reach rank 6, making it to where we can ascend our characters, upgrade our weapons, and even increase our skills, meaning that you might want to try to focus on one specific team because you're going to need a lot of materials, especially if you're leveling multiple characters. But at the very least for now, you just want to make sure that you're doing your daily quest and completing your activity book every day. Also note that in 1.1, they're going to be adding more challenges to this, so it should be easier to complete in version 1.1. And of course, with it being a new week, you have an enhanced drop rate for boss monsters, to where they have 100% for them to drop echoes, and you have an 80% chance for it to be a 5-star. But note, in version 1.1, once we're able to get to Databank 21, it's going to be 100% chance. Then when it comes to the bosses to farm, I recommend that you focus on your main DPSs. That way you can make them the strongest possible. So for characters like Jian, ideally you want to go for characters like the monkey boss. But if your main DPSs are good, then of course you can always go for your sub DPS and try to go for those bosses. And I'm sure you all know by now, healing bonus is hard to get on the turtle boss. So if you don't have that quite yet for your arena, you might want to use a few attempts on that. Then when it comes to the new characters, if you're farming for those sets, you mainly want to go with their main elemental set. So for Jinshi, she's going to want the Celestial Light set. But one thing to note is that you might not want to try to farm Morning Affix too much because the next boss in the new area might be better. And for Changli, she's going to want the Mode and Rift set. So if you have not already, you might want to use a few attempts on Infernal Rider if you plan to get her. Which brings us to events. So first off, we got Weathering Exploration, which is very easy to do. You generally get 2 tasks a day, and as you do those, you're going to increase your rank. Once you get enough points, you're able to collect the rewards. And you want to make sure that you do Yangyang's preview. That way you can at least get the Asterite, and you want to do the same for all of her banner characters. because you only have a little over 7 days to do this. And this is the same for Yangyang's story, which gives a lot of union experience, so you want to make sure that you complete that before it's too late. And don't forget about the alloy smelt quest. You want to try to make sure that you get enough points so that way you can get all the rewards. And if you're having trouble, be sure to check your floors with low scores and look at the right side to where you can see special buffs for each floor and try to complete that. For example, this floor gives a buff to Electro, which is great for Yangyang. And then we have this second coming of Solaris quests, which are very easy to do. Basically, you go to the Pioneer Association, ask them what today's scenario is. If you don't know what item to give them, you can always ask them to give you clues. By doing that, it usually just directs you to someone who's just going to give you the item. Then you just simply turn it in and collect your rewards. One thing to note about this is that if you have not been doing this every day, you can still do every quest whenever you want to. You just have to make sure you do it before the 8 days is up. And lastly, we have Illusive Realm. Now this is going to reset when this patch is over, so you want to make sure that you complete this before the patch ends, to where you should have 3,800 points, so that way you can buy out everything in the shop. Also note that if you did complete this, be sure to clear out the shop because all of this resets. And for people that are hurting on Echo experience, realize on June 20th to June 27th, we're going to be getting a double Echo event. So you might want to try to save a few of your cubes just to make sure that you can do that. And I still would try to advance all of your tactical holograms on the map because they can allow you to buy some rewards, on top of getting some really valuable first time clear rewards. But if you take a look at the shop, you can buy tuners, and you can even buy these lower tier tuners to where in 1.1 you can transfer those into higher grade tuners. And also note that Tower of Adversity resets in less than 6 days. And one thing to note is that some of the characters that we started out with are pretty strong. For example, Yangyang. I was able to clear the first floor and get 3 stars just using her. With her only being level 40, none of her skills are leveled. I just gave her the 5-star sword that I got for being level 45, and I gave her Jiyan's Echoes. But she has the potential to knock out the first 3 floors on both of the towers by herself, which can save you a lot of energy for your main team, especially when we start getting closer to being able to handle the Hazard Tower. But I can't take full credit for this. I did find this out from Apel, so I'll go ahead and leave a link to that video down in the description as well. And now let's go ahead and discuss what we should do with our Waveplates. I recommend that you use your Waveplates for forgery challenges. Besides that, you could use them on bosses as well. But if you're about to reach 40, I would try to wait until you reach 40 before going for bosses. When it comes to weekly bosses, if you are getting close to 50, you might want to wait until you're 50 before doing those. And Tacit Fields, I would pass on for now since we're about to get a double Echo event soon. And other useful places is to go to Tiger Mall's ore in the Tiger Mall's mine, to where I would at least try to buy the Ascension materials, and then you can start aiming for that weapon experience since you're going to need to level a lot of weapons fairly soon. Also be sure to check out the synthesizer in the main town. That way you can craft your weapon experience, which resets weekly. And I recommend that you start cooking, especially since we're about to get a new zone, to where if you go to the grocery store, some of the items you can only buy a limited amount daily. So you want to try to stock those up for some of those higher end cooking recipes. Because as you start leveling up your cooking, you can get recipes like this, to where this reduces the cooldown of you using your grapple, which is very helpful to get you around the world. Especially if you're farming elites like the Stonewall Bracer, the Violet Heron, or the Flautist, for characters like Farina or Yangyang. One thing to note, that when you are cooking, you want to make sure that you hit this button and you see if any resonators give you a bonus while cooking. Since no resonator gives me a bonus, I can go ahead and max this out, but you see once it gets to 300, I cannot get any more proficiency points, no matter how much I make, forcing you to make various other dishes, so you're going to need to constantly go back and buy materials so that way you can progress your level. And lastly, we got the Pioneer Podcast, to where this resets once the patch ends, meaning that we get another shot at the Battle Pass weapons. So you might want to consider what you want to go for next patch. With the standouts being Autumn Trace, which is good for Jiyan and Calcharo. You could try to look into the future and try to get these gauntlets for a future main DPS gauntlet user. Or if you have Yangyang and you were not able to get her signature weapon, you might want to consider getting this. Or just simply getting more ranks on a weapon you already have. But with that should be everything that you need to know for this week. Let me know down in the comments if I left anything out, but hopefully you guys enjoyed this, and if so, I would greatly appreciate a like so that way it can spread more on YouTube. But other than that, I'll talk with you guys later.